Welcome to Market Movers. My name is Ryan Mummert. I am your host. I am also the general manager of Title Guarantee, and I am honored to be here with Rodney Washington. Welcome, Rodney.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Rodney, can you give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. I mean, we want the highlight reel?
No, sir. I mean, yeah, just like give me from birth, okay? No, but
you want feet on the island?
I think let's talk about your journey in the real estate world. Just how you got started and how you got to it's like as an interview. Tell me about yourself, Rodney.
Got it. Yeah, no problem. Well, I'll make that part as quick as I can. We got to take it to 2004. 2004 is when I first came to Guam, very first time, and I was in the military. I was in the Navy. So that's what got me here. Took me 6 months to know that I was going to be living here.
Okay.
Yeah, for a lot of people, it's hit or miss. You never meet anybody not from the island that is in the middle. Mm-hmm. It's extreme love, or they're missing some shopping mall or something. Yeah. Get back to it. So that's what got me here. And like I said, first 6 months, I knew I wanted to stay. And I had an opportunity to move off base. I was an E3 then. You can't move off base as a E3 these days. Military will know what I'm talking about, and then the real estate professionals will know what I mean by that. Totally different landscape, today. Mm-hmm. But I had the opportunity to move off base and needed a roommate. He came and got me and said, Rodney, I found a house. Come and check it out. Let me know what you think. We can move in together. Long story short, loved it. First year in the house, it was the last 3 months of that lease. He got deployed, found a girl, wasn't coming back, right, to the house. So I asked my realtor at the time, who was Thomas Zhang.
Okay. Shout
out Thomas Zhang. And I basically told him, I was like, hey, Thomas, my roommate isn't coming back, and I'm thinking about how I can basically get into real estate, Thomas came up with the brilliant plan. It was brilliant. He said, okay, I know the landlord. They're fine, with subleasing. So sublease this place, and we'll find you another place, just like that. Yeah. All right. So we did that, and he actually sold me Salvatore's Garden.
Okay.
Yeah, Salvatore's Garden. At that time, it was around 109,000, if you can believe that.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
It was around 109,000, if you can believe that. And then that got me into my first place, and that was the opening of me getting into real estate. So I was 19 years old.
So you bought a Salvatore's Garden for $109,000 in 2005?
Mm-hmm.
5. So, but how did you come up? So because that's not eligible for VA financing, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. How did you do that?
I've only recently bought and sold many properties. Only recently used my VA loan option. So there are tons of ways to get it done.
Understood.
But at that time, I was able to do 3% down.
Okay.
And I actually went with Citibank.
Oh, okay.
It's not here anymore, but the ladies there, they were awesome. So I went through Citibank, and I did put 3% down, and I was able to get it done that way.
Nice. So why did you choose to do 3% down versus 100%? Well, obviously it's not eligible, right? In pricing, right?
Right. In pricing. So the bank criteria, it was their lending standards on that type of property. Wow. So that's what got me in the door. And then I ended up getting deployed shortly after, right? So while I was away, I saved up. And this is important to do. I mean, I'm telling the journey, but I can't help but want to interject and tell people that are thinking of doing something similar how important it is to have a plan for your money. We work hard enough for it as it is, but have a plan for it. And I say this because I remember we were in the desert. We were in Kuwait, actually on the border of Iraq and Kuwait. And there were packages coming every day, people ordering from online, just stuff that they didn't need, I mean, I used it. I used it, but I would even tell them, hey, as you should save, because when we get back to Guam, you can pick up a property. Who wants to stay in Guam? Who wants to buy a house in Guam? I said, okay.
Yeah.
I said, well, that's what I'm doing when I get back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called Thomas. I said, I'm back. I need another property. And he said, okay, let's go look at Delmore Condo.
And this time you still kept your Salvatore's garden. You're renting it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Still kept it. So Thomas takes me to Delmore Condo. It was $64,000 at the time. And can't believe they're going for $250 right now.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say and Salvatore's Gardens right now, 20 years later, is what $279?
No,
320?
no. Easily $398 on a good day.
Your Salvatore's Garden is going for $398?
Oh yeah,
wow.
Especially if they did a little renovation, on it.
Wow, that's really off my radar. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice.
I get it. You're in another world these days. But yeah, he took me Delmore Condo, and we ended up buying that, and that was $64,000. I had to do 20% this time.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go the investor loan route, right? Because I already had the other property.
Right.
It was a military tenant. At the time, I just thought about this. At the time, she was paying $600 a month. And I don't even know the mechanics behind that now that I think about it. I don't even know. But when I bought it, she was already in there, and she was paying $600 a month. But, that was cool. The mortgage, Ryan, was $354. Yeah.
So you're already cash flowing.
It was already cash flowing. $64 was the mortgage for that. And then that was my second property. By this time, I'm looking at my base pay for the military, and then I'm looking at what I'm cash flowing on rental income. And man, it was even neck and neck.
Uh-huh.
It was more on the real estate side.
And how old are you at this point?
By this point, I'm 20 years old.
20 years old.
Yeah.
You have 2 investment properties in the bag. Okay.
I'm 20 years old at this time, and so I'm rocking and rolling. I say, you know what? I want to do it early out. So I actually got out of the military early. Mm-hmm. I did a request chit to get out early. They didn't want me to go. They wanted me to stay. Even gave me an offer, hey, we can get you here another 3 years and all of that. That sounded great, but I was ready to kind of, be out of it. But that was the start. Mm-hmm. There's a little more, I don't know what you want to know on that part, but that was the start of it.
Well, if you want to find out more, you got to engage Rodney and have him show you some properties. And
I can do it.
You'll get the full story on the way to Talafofo or something, right? Yeah. That's always interesting to me. That when you have the actual customer in your car, that's how I did it, right? You load them in the car, you take them out, right?
I love that. I prefer it actually.
Right? Yeah.
Rather than them trailing behind you.
Exactly. You engage, you get to know somebody, right? But it's just like, man, if I'm showing you a lot of properties and if we're not clicking, right?
Yeah, right. There's that.
Cut this short.
Yeah, you do got some people that they're just quiet. They're just taking it in, and it's hard to gauge them, right? Because we're constantly trying to gauge where they are, right? What they feel. But yeah, that was the start, man. And I want to go back and say, on the renovating side, the Salvatore's garden needed just a little work, right? Mm-hmm. And Thomas suggested you should renovate the unit. And I was like, renovate? I'm, never done anything like that. And I was like, okay. So I went, selected everything. Thomas sent the contractor over. And then he came when it was done. And I was off island at this time. I got deployed. So when he came to check it out for me, he emailed me and he was like, Rodney, is actually very nice. He said, I'm not just saying that. He said, you may want to think about designing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, really? He said, yeah, you match the grout with with the color of the wall. And I was like, oh, okay. It's just what looked nice to me.
Right.
So I went that route. And that was the start of me doing renovations. But I didn't do another one until years later. Years later. But that was the seed on that part.
I see. And then at what point did you get licensed?
Okay, so once I put in the early out to get out of the military, I stayed in my Salvatore's unit for about 6 months. And I kind of thought I was missing something stateside, so I left the end of 2007 and moved to Las Vegas.
Okay.
Right? So I moved to Vegas just to try it out, just to see what's going on, travel around. And so I moved there. We sold this property, and I made about $53,000 on it. Mm-hmm. Now, I said that to say because at that time, I thought the money spigot was on.
Right.
Like, I got it figured out. Can't go wrong. I'm just made, 21. Mm-hmm. I got this big check. And I remember where I said I moved to, right?
Yeah, Las Vegas.
Yeah, so that didn't last a year.
Oh, you're kidding. Did you play red, Rodney?
I did. You got to bet on black, man.
Right on. I see the aesthetic, right? Yeah. That's awesome.
And so what was the original question?
Well, at what point did you get licensed? And then you said you had moved away.
So then I left and, ran through that little bit of money, but I had an incredible time. And I raised my hand to go volunteer back in the military to go back to the desert.
Okay, so you re-enlisted.
I didn't re-enlist, but I was in the reserves.
I see.
So I chose to go in the individual augmentee.
Okay.
And at that time, I said, man, I had so much fun. I played around. Now I'm going to go ahead and get serious because I know what's possible now, right?
Understood, yeah.
So let me go do this year, save some money, and then I'll come back, And then Lel and I, we did that. So I got deployed, finished that time, came back, did a little time in Texas because I was interested in renewable energy. So mm-hmm. I moved to Austin and was going to school for that. Found out there really wasn't any money in it. And I said, okay, I'm ready to go back to Guam. Are you ready to go? She said yes. So now I'm back. It's 2011. End of 2010, 2011. Ellen Wilkinson, who was my principal broker, just so everybody knows her backstory, she found out that I was back and said, Rodney, I said, hey. She said, I want you to come. If you know Ellen, she's direct.
Yes.
She calls me. I don't even know how she got the number, but it's Ellen, right?
Right.
So she calls me and it's like, Rodney, I heard you was back on island. I want you to go and get your real estate. Now, there's no asking me any of this, right? Yeah. I want you to go and get your real estate license and come and work for me. I said, yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. So I was licensed within about 3 months.
I see.
And what was crazy so that's when I got licensed, October of 2011.
Okay. And that's when I started to I got to know you, right? Like mm-hmm. 2011 on.
Yeah, during your early days, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were already senior to me at that time. Yeah.
hey. We don't talk about that stuff. Yeah. No, but one thing that always connected me with you was your energy, right? Mm. It's just like always real positive, go-getter, right?
Thank you.
And just definitely a problem solver, and just some people get into this business and they just have a vibe about them, right? And I always thought you had that, right?
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, and that energy, you gravitate, to people that kind of like-minded and have that vibe. So that's always been my thing too, on that. But yeah, and so 2011. October 24th, I remember that because that's my birthday.
Oh, okay.
Is when I got licensed. What's cool about that, too, around this time, remember, I still have the Delmar condo unit.
Oh, so you never let it go. So you sold Tanvatora's Gardens, and that was the $53,000 check, right? But you held on to
But
Delmar.
I had that, so so I could eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while I'm away, the unit hasn't been rented out for about 9 months, mm-hmm. right? And now I'm in my transition of getting ready to come back. And I'm like, why isn't it renting out, The agent, she was on top of it. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. So it was rented out for maybe $1,100 at the time. I came back. I got that call from Ellen. I got my license. This is all in a 3 to 4 month span of time. Got my license, did my own listing for my unit, fixed it up how I thought it should be within the budget that I had, and it rented out for the most it ever did for $1,980.
Nice. And
that was within 4 months. Getting back on island, getting my license, taking my own listing, and then getting it rented out for.
E5?
Yes.
E5,
yeah. No, E4.
E4? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
At that time, they still could move off.
Married? No.
Single.
Single? Nice.
Single. That was the spot, 1980.
That's awesome.
And I stayed there too, just briefly, because when I came back to Guam, I needed a place to stay. So since it was already vacant, I stayed there. This is funny to me because I'm married, right? Coming back, completely slipped my mind to tell my wife my goals and ambitions.
Okay.
Right. So what I mean by that is, after she just got there, 3 months maybe in the place, and I just did the bathroom. It's 2 bathrooms. I just renovated the bathroom. And I was like, oh, don't use this bathroom, right?
Oh, by the way.
And she's like, why not? That made zero sense. She's like, why not? I was like, oh, because we're gonna go get a roommate, and then I'm gonna rent this place out. And she's like, what's happening? I said, oh, I need to tell her what our next 10 years are gonna look like.
Right.
And then that's when we had that conversation. So communication is important.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Right. Especially if you have goals that you want to meet, right? You want to make sure that your partner is on the same page.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, there's sacrifice in those early days.
They're
right?
sacrificing with you.
Yeah. And that's a lot to ask if someone's not on the same boat, for sure.
It's a lot to ask, and then it's tough on you.
Right.
And it's tough on them.
And then they take half your stuff.
Yeah, right, because they didn't sign up for that, which I get,
Yeah.
So that was an interesting time, but I was ready for it.
But those were the great days. So when I started real estate in 05, I benchmark a Lupin Cove was a 2-bedroom was $125,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Versus kind of where it is now, right? And it's interesting because the rents have steadily progressed on that, right? It was $1,600 for that was the baseline. Then they raised OHA.
Oh, that's the common area fee now.
Yeah. Well, they got smart, right? Because they figured out how to split it up to maximize that. But every increment that OHA went up, essentially the rents went up, right?
Sure.
And that was great because especially if you bought into that, where you got in right early,
You had that room to absorb some
significantly.
Of that
Plus, you had so much equity. I sold in Lupin Cove myself twice to 2 different investors, and they both made money. And each time I thought that was the top.
Each time, right?
Each time, right? And I said, so the second guy I sold it to, well, the first guy, I was like, hey, do you want to sell this? Are you interested? Because, looking at the market, if you're not just looking at cash flow, you're probably at the top of appreciation. You're moving off Guam. So maybe now it's time to take the profit, do a 1031, and put the money else. Yeah. And then, so the guy I sold it to is like, hey, you're probably at top of market. You're going to, looking at cash flow, right? He was buying to, as a replacement. He liked Guam, right? So he bought that. And then he sold it and made money too, right? I was like, wow. And I thought the top of the market was where it was in 2015, 2016. But just to see where things have gone, and again, like I said, Salvatore's Garden was totally off my radar, right? I hadn't realized that,
the prices are there.
Like right there. Specifically that one, right? And it's interesting because there's all kinds of properties here, leasehold, that people aren't familiar with. And one of the things that I know you sold a lot of is Tumon Horizon.
Oh, or maybe 13 to 15 units.
Right. You sold a ton of Tumon, and that has one of the shortest leases that's kind of on the market.
Right now it's at 26 years, if I'm not mistaken. No more.
Right. No, but 26 years, no more. And then also you can't, it's very difficult to get conventional financing in excess.
You cannot.
Right. Yeah. So, but there's a strategy for all of that. So tell me, tell me how you present the picture, when you're looking at properties like that.
Okay. Yeah. Tumon Horizon is a perfect example. That's a great investment. That is a great investment short term. This isn't a legacy type of property. If you have, kids that you're looking to leave something to, that's not the one for it, in my opinion. And the numbers say the same.
Agree.
Too, though. But let's say you are strictly looking to invest, make positive cash flow, and you want your money back out of the deal, then that's a great property to do it. You're looking at an average of around $180,000 for a Tumon Horizon unit.
Right.
Some go up to $189,000. Rarely, I don't think we sold anything $200,000 or more yet in that building. Not that I know of, and I watch it pretty close on that. But let's say you have a unit $189,000. You buy it. is furnished. You turn around, you put a tenant in there, most likely military, 2200, 2205. 5 years, you just about have your money back.
Yes.
5 years, you just about have it. A little longer, 5, 6 years. That point, the rest is strictly profit. Now you have your money back in a much shorter time if you go and you finance a big portion of it, right? So most of the ones I sold, they were cash buyers. So they started earning a return, pretty quickly on that. But the ones that I've sold that financed, and then you can finance, if you have less than 30 years on a leasehold property, you cannot get traditional financing on that, right? So if they offer a 15-year term or loan product, you can do that. If they don't, then you can go the investment loan route, 25% down. If, let's say, that doesn't work, you can also use a business loan because 360 is great at getting business loans done. So you can go that route. So there's 20% down for the business loan, 25% for the investment loan, or you can do cash.
Right. And so I've always appreciated that about you in terms of acquisition strategies. You know your stuff, you know your numbers, you know how to facilitate those and that can be a problematic property because of that, especially if you're just in your head conventional financing,
That's it.
Right? But then there's other options. Like talk to me about how you get creative.
Okay. So 2 month horizon was a way to get creative because you can't finance it traditionally, and I've had agents call me and ask specifically, Rodney, how can I get this? It's their listing. And here's one thing too about me. Any agent can call me to help solve a problem because at the end of the day, we're in this thing together.
Agreed.
It's not a competition at all. We support each other. That's how we get the job done. So they'll call and say, well, how can I get that done? And then that's when I didn't know that you can do a business loan. Oh, well, I knew of an investment loan, but I wasn't quite sure if it would work. So you start working those things out. Okay, we can piggyback off, and I'll give you a real scenario. We can piggyback off of 2 month horizon because one, we used our knowledge on what the different lending institutions offer to get that done. All right, so you got a little creative in that. So let's say you want to jump to commercial property, commercial real estate being anything that's 5 units or more, right? Taps out after 5. 4, you still can go VA, which you know. So now we'll use Tamuning Breeze, my building in Tamuning. So that property, say, is $600,000. The bank wants their 20%. Bank wants $180,000, right? That's what they want. Well, you can get creative, especially now since you're using a commercial loan product. They want cash or collateral. Can't do this with residential.
Yes.
It's just cash. So because 2 month horizon is paid for, right? It's free and clear besides the leasehold that's on it. You can go ahead and collateralize that, satisfy your down payment requirement for your commercial loan, and any cash that you had, you can use that towards your remodel.
Are you pulling HELOCs or home equity lines out of the 2 month horizons?
No, you cannot because it is leasehold. So you cannot do a HELOC on leasehold property.
Okay.
But the way to get around that is you can collateralize it. You can't pull cash out.
I see.
But you can trade it as if it were cash.
They attach it as a collection asset.
They do. Right.
And then they count the cash flow.
So that's a way, if you're tight on cash, but you do have a property that's free and clear and it's leasehold, you can get into commercial real estate by giving them a first line on that property. So that's how you fix that problem. And I didn't know that until I started to do it myself.
Yeah, so it was put together as, you had a good loan officer or like someone good helping you kind of put the package together.
Oh, shout out to Lenny at Bank Pacific.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, she gets it done.
Yeah,
the whole team.
Yeah, she's skilled. Yeah, no, that's
very
great.
much so.
Yeah.
So that goes a long way.
And for the record, you beat me out of 2 Winning Breeze. Congratulations.
Man, I heard.
I had a competing offer, and I didn't know who got accepted over me, right? But it's it's like, but when I found out it was you, I felt good about
Thanks,
it.
man.
Right? Yeah.
See, that's that support aspect again that we were talking about, right? Tommy O. Clark, because he was the listener.
Yes. Yeah.
Tommy O called me, and it's like he was confused. He said, Rodney, it's almost like he was whispering. I was like, you don't want the office to hear you, man? I was like, what's up? What's up, Tom? He said, I don't know what you said or did, man, but your offer is accepted, and I suggest you take it.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. I know what I did. You want to hear?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So again, about getting creative.
Mm-hmm.
I already knew who. I didn't know you were interested, but I already knew the players that was in. My own broker went and looked at the property.
Yeah.
Ellen went and looked, and usually that's a sign just to go ahead and look for something else. But when I went there, I met the seller and just found out a little bit about her.
Okay.
And then I said, I know you're busy right now, but can I come back? And then we can talk. Tommy O was cool with that. Right, so we go back. I tell Lahela, go ahead and bake some cookies. Do your best stuff.
Oh, Rodney, you did cookies on
man,
me, man.
Bake some cookies.
Rodney.
Man, the house was smelling great. I said, okay, cool, this will work. This will work. So took the cookies. We're sitting at the kitchen table, and this is all 100% genuine. So I'm asking her what is important to her. What are you dealing with right now that you need to sell? I can't maintain the property. I'm getting older. My brothers and sisters, my dad built this, for us, but they're all off island. And also, I don't know where I'm going to go yet. I need another place. I said, okay, let's solve all of that right now. I said, this is your home. Your dad built it, did a great job on it, it needs a little work, and everybody else told her, it was ugly and all of that. But her dad built it, so she doesn't want to hear that, So he did a great job on it, Here's what I want to do with it and restore it to what I know he would want it to be. But why don't you stay here? Stay in your own unit, 6 months. Won't charge you anything. You stay in here rent-free until you find a place, to go to.
Yes.
And I think solving that problem and removing that anxiety of finding a place is what helped her go ahead and make that decision.
I did everything except for the cookies, Rodney. So. we had a good conversation. We talked. We said, no, you can stay, all that stuff. It was the cookies, man. So shout out to Lahela.
Yeah, she came through.
What kind of cookies? I got to know.
She did a chocolate crinkle cookie with a nice white sugar powder on it.
I hate you, man.
Man, it's good. I didn't think they were going to make it to the meeting. but that's how, I think that helped that along. And then that is interesting, too. And I was telling my buddy about this years ago. Every time I've hit a wall or a perceived ceiling, it was only due to the fact that it was information I didn't have yet. And I had just read a book, How to Win and Influence People.
Okay. Dale Carnegie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Had just read it. And then this situation presented itself. And there we go.
Yes.
We get through it, So, and that goes hand in hand with the finance. And I didn't have $180,000, but once that offer got accepted, I had to find out how to get it. So this is where you go and get more information, and you ask the question, oh, Lenny, you mean to tell me that I don't have to write a check? You can just collateralize what I already have? Okay, let's do it.
And so I have to tell you, especially over the last 2 years, I've seen some of the most creative things, structurally in financing, especially now that the credit's tight.
I would imagine now.
It's amazing what some cash flow and a good loan officer can do for you. Right? So shout out to Lenny over at Bank Pacific. You know, they're not a sponsor of the podcast, but soon will be. Thanks, Rodney.
Awesome.
Right. But then that's also what we talk about here at Title Guarantee is transactional facilitation, right? And you know, if you don't have that asset where you have a great realtor like Rodney, if you come to us, we'll either connect you with a great realtor like Rodney, or we'll do what we can to put you in front of someone who really knows what they're doing. And that's important.
And that is true. I can back that up. You know, you've called me, you know, and said this client has specific needs. I think you may be suited to help them, and you know, and it actually worked out. So yeah, so you're right on that, and thank you for that.
And you know, and so understanding that, right, being both a buyer and a real estate professional, you know. Tell me about what you look for what you would look for if you're looking for representation on the listing side, and then what you're looking for in terms of representation on the buying side.
Okay. So on the listing side, so if I was looking for representation on the listing side, it's almost, some things are the same on both ends. You know, a lot can be said for experience, but I think even more can be said for hunger. So I would actually look for somebody that's really motivated. You know, I honestly, you know, somebody that has goals, that have some bills to pay, because they figure it out. You know, they figure it out, and you can ascertain that from them just in a 5-minute conversation. You know, because they'll tell you what they will do for your property. They'll ask you, you know, for the chance and the opportunity. The flip side of that looks like, I've done all of these things, which is why you should, you know, hire me. Okay, you know, that's great, but I'm looking forward to you know, at this moment right now, what do we want to do? You know, so truthfully, that's, you know, my answer is, how motivated is this person to solve problems and get the job done? You mentioned earlier in the conversation about problem solving, and that's the biggest key, because you get paid according to the level of problem.
Agreed.
That you solve. That's just the name of it. So if this person is a problem solver, they've made the top of my list. You know, for sure. It goes a long way too to have people say, you know, great things and say, oh yes, you know, I've used them. This was the experience. So that goes a long way too. I would look for the support that they have, because a lot of time being an agent is a standalone gig. Okay. But having a great support network like what you had at Today's Realty, you know, great broker, you had awesome coworkers. Yes. I'm pretty sure, you know, if you needed something, you pick up the phone and, you know, Dwayne, can you help me out with this? You know, I have this going on.
100%. Right?
So that person also is in a place that has a great network. Maybe I don't know them personally, but I know the office that they're at and the reputation that office has. I know that they're going to get the support that they need.
Yes, I totally see that. And I do think, me personally, I do think transactional repetition matters because the problem-solving aspect.
Yes.
So, you know, just because a guy has a good hustle or a person has a good hustle doesn't mean I'm going to list my $10 million commercial property with them.
Exactly.
So I would want to make sure that there's experience behind them in the pipe. And so maybe if someone has a good hustle, maybe you ask them to bring on like another more senior broker, just to kind of back that up. You know, because the co-listing thing happens all the time, and you would be surprised how much we help each other out in the real estate industry. Even what's impressed me the most about the real estate industry here is that spirit of cooperation. Yes. Not necessarily on the title side, right, but on the realtor side for sure. But what also concerns me is when people just run off and get their broker's license and they don't have those resources, they don't have that infrastructure in place. Sure. That becomes a problem in itself, because who are you going to lean on?
And that's it. And that's the second part, you know, to that. You know, who are you going to lean on? You know, yes. And like you said, bring someone on That's done it. That's tried and true. But that's that core operation aspect of it.
And I think it's okay to ask that question. Exactly that. Who are you going? Like, you're young, you're inexperienced. I like your hustle, right? I think you're a motivated guy. I would love you, but who are you going to lean on if this happened?
And that's fair. And exactly that question. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's those are the kinds of conversations, because what I've learned in sales over the course of my career is don't go with the stereotype. Because in your mind, I see a salesperson, you think type A, Grant Cardone, whatever.
Sure.
Right. But what I've learned is over time is like, you connect with people at a different level, and I connect with people at a different level.
Yes.
And those kinds of people are gravitate towards me, and other kinds of people are going to gravitate towards you. And sometimes you're complete opposites, but they appreciate your perspective.
That's it.
So I just think it's about being real.
Ryan, you're spitting what I like to call real facts.
Right on. Yeah, another shot. But this guy's like the plug today. Oh man. That's
absolutely true, man. Absolutely true. And because when I think about it, that's it. That was exactly my journey. Because here I am, a new face, not from Guam, but I had that hunger. So there's that aspect, but that's not enough. That's enough to get me to the door, but not through it. Well, where are you? Who are you working with? Well, this is my principal broker. Oh, okay. Well, come on, because I know you're going to get your problem solved.
Yes.
Right. So there it goes.
And then also just reputationally, okay, there's a history there. So don't be afraid to ask your real estate professional to bring someone else in if you're worried about their experience level. If you like their presentation, if you think they're going to do a good job, right? Because again, that's the problem. If you have an experienced person, they're busy. So how much direct attention are you going to get?
Yep.
So that's also a key consideration. So I totally understand that.
Wow. And I love it now. Now that we have Washington Realty, have more freedom to co-broke. So you're likely to see me on a co-listing, with Banyan Properties, or even you name it. If we vibe, if we get along, you need help. I'm co-listing right now with Ellen's Realty.
Okay.
On the property. And that goes back again to that network and working together to get things done.
No, because you would be surprised how often it's reputational and trust between brokers that gets transactions done. Because I know if you say something to me,
then
we're
going to do the thing that you said.
But if you pull the rug out from me a couple times and maybe I'm not trusting what you're saying, then okay, I'm just gonna I'll be more hesitant, and I'm gonna gravitate towards a person, even if it's a lower offer, like that. And, I'm gonna go with what I trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that goes a long way.
So you plugged all these places except for the place that you founded and you work, right? So talk to me about kind of where you got with Washington Realty and what your kind of ethos is over there.
Cool. Yeah, not a problem. So I was with Ellen's Realty for 10 years. Had a great time. Learned, so much. And I was asked, maybe 5 years in, hey, are you gonna, start your own? But it didn't appeal to me. And I knew the value that I was getting where I was.
Yes.
It didn't appeal to me until much later. Ellen actually called it, she having a midlife crisis.
What am I doing with my life?
So I said, okay, maybe. Shoot, you've known me since I was 19. I'm about to turn 40, so maybe you're right. So it didn't hit me until 10 years later that I'm ready for a change. And it was more about just putting my own ideas into action. That's what it was about, more than anything. It wasn't money. You do the thing, money will come.
I agree.
So that's not the focus, right? But the focus is, how can I be more creative? You know, how can I mean, look, I like green, I like pink, I like black, you know. How can I do, you know, my own thing? So, right around that time, one of our other fellow agents who was often away and I assisted with their deals wanted to open an office and update things.
Okay.
Right? And it was already changes that I wanted to see that they presented. And I was like, okay, you called me at the right time. Let's do it. So on that end, we go through all the hoops to put that into practice, but it didn't work out.
Why?
It didn't work out because, you know, you find that oftentimes some people don't present who they really are, right? And you meet their representative.
Yes.
And before, it doesn't take long for that facade to fade.
That's Eddie Murphy. Yeah. That's raw.
It's raw because it's the truth. It's the truth.
Right.
You know? And so that's that. One of the best things, though, that could have happened because it forced me to go and completely do my own thing. Mm-hmm. You know, so you never know how things come about. So you just trust the process and moving forward. So to get out of that situation, we formed Washington Realty. And everything was there already, Ryan.
Yes.
I already had the office. I already had an assistant. You know, I already had an agent. Okay. You know, everything was already there. I just had to go and formally put it to paper and do it. So that's how that came about.
But you keep it small.
Keep it very small.
Yeah.
Very, very small. You know, that's a small part in the response to the fallout of that previous situation and feeling, I want to say pressure because I'm fine with pressure, but actually just seeing what it's like being responsible for people when things don't go according to plan made me feel a certain way.
I understand.
About that. So, and then secondly, I actually like freedom. Mm-hmm. I enjoy time, freedom. That's very important to me. You know, so if I can keep it manageable, you know, and maybe it's not going to double or triple, but if it's manageable and all my needs are met, my clients are taken care of, and I have more free time, I'm on board with that.
You know, it's funny that you brought up free time because one of the things that makes me laugh is when people say they want to get into real estate because they want to manage their schedule. They want to afford the free time, right? They want to be able to do what they want. And, you know, talk to me about that, Rodney. Talk to me about that myth.
So because I know you're old school in that world, you know, once you get into it and you take it serious, there is no free time.
Exactly.
It does not exist. But that's okay if you know why and when.
Exactly.
And I can tell you get what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. You know why you're doing it. You know for about how long you're going to do this thing. You know, I have more free time now because 10 years ago I knew my why and when. Mm-hmm. I'm working around the clock because I want to set it up for in the future I can choose to say no.
Yes. And you're afforded that luxury later on, but the grind in the beginning while you're building that base is just ridiculous.
And it has to be that way. There's no work-life balance in the beginning. That's a myth.
Zero.
It has to be outsized.
But that's entrepreneurship, right? And so in that context, talk to me about your entrepreneurship because Washington Realty is not the only thing you have going on outside of your property interests. Talk to me about that next step.
Yeah, sure. Well, we've been name dropping, so they won't mind me name dropping. I talk often to other agents and brokers out there, right? Me and Saran, we were talking. We talk often. Saran is a broker over at Firefighter Realty. Shout out Saran. So coming out of the pandemic and that banner year that preceded it, which a lot of people got licensed during that time.
I know, yeah.
The gold rush. Easy money.
600 agents strong.
Right. So we started to notice, we were just talking, it's like, hey, it feels a little different. This is before there was any like immediate, effect of interest rates changing. Yeah. I was like, yeah, feels different, Phone's not ringing as much. Oh, okay, I thought it was just me. So we started looking into that and seeing, and now that we're doing a little research, things are going to change. We were already at tight inventory.
Yes.
And this will segue into it. We were already at tight inventory. Now prices have shot up. And then the final nail in the coffin, interest rates, right? We started to get ahead of that. Saran went and did, his thing and positioned himself. But I started looking at what is something that is realistic and what's a real opportunity for me. I don't want to start another business, anything from the ground up, but what's happening? And then I found out one of the biggest wealth transfers that's happening is the retirement of the boomers.
Yes.
So they're retiring. We're talking about a couple trillion.
Yeah.
From their businesses, their net worth. And guess what happens? Once they're either going to close the door in their business or they're going to sell it really cheap, right? This is the biggest wealth transfer that's happening. So I started looking into businesses that I could acquire and that were a natural fit for what I already did and also my personality. So luckily, I had already been working with, shout out to Ken Williams, Karen Williams. I'd already been working with them in real estate. You know what we need.
Yes.
You know what we need. So I'd been working with them 6-7 years and just building up that relationship there. And Ken came over to my place to check something, and on the way out the door, he just casually says, well, I want to sell this thing. I'm ready to retire. Karen says it's time to call it quits.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why don't you guys come over tomorrow for dinner and let's talk about it for real? He said, if you're for real, then I'll come over.
Okay. Were there cookies, Rodney? Crinkle cuts, chocolate cookies?
Not this time. Not this time. Maybe it was a little wine, though.
Okay.
So they come over and, we start to talk. And then now this thing becomes real. The they tell us about, the behind the scenes of the business. Of course, they're ready, to retire. And it's looking like a real option. I don't have to start this thing from ground up. It's been in business, 12 years, has a great reputation, already comes fully equipped, staff, equipment, inventory, everything you need. You just got to go and get these licenses, and and then you're good to go. So we ended up doing a deal that worked out for both of us. He stayed on. I still can call him up. He stayed on to give us the training that we needed, made sure we were good to go, made sure that his guys that he brought on, trained and hired, were set up, and comfortable. And we made that transition. And let me tell you, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
And a lot of people don't know that as a realtor, you can actually broker those opportunities. So,
yes.
So if someone wanted to, and there's a lot of people, let me tell you, there are a lot of people here who want to exit their business, but the number one problem they have is valuation.
I understand. And there's, you can get into formulas on how you do an evaluation and along those lines. But you are correct. I was uniquely qualified to put together a contract that worked for both parties. I mean, once the contract was put together, we just had to, submit it to the legal team,
right?
For review, and everybody was happy.
As an aside, don't do that without a lawyer.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
There's some real risk in acquiring a business in terms of liability. So be careful out there, kids. Right.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah. And here it is, Top End Pest Control, Guam. I love it because I get to continue to provide a service to my fellow agents.
Right. It's in a market that you're inherently familiar with, right?
That's
so it's
it.
just like in terms of the fit, it couldn't be more perfect.
Could it be more perfect?
Yeah.
It couldn't be more perfect. So I would say to anybody out there that's looking for something, and realize that you don't have to start it from the ground up. You can actually take over.
Can you tell me how you manage opportunities that come to you when you wanna acquire it, right? Someone comes to you and there's like, I want to sell my business, I want to sell my property, but it's like, hey man, I want to buy this.
Sure,
This really makes sense. But your first duty generally is to you're a realtor, right? So your duty first is to the customer and the client. So how do you manage that personally?
Well, one is knowing what my clients want. Like there's probably 10 or 11 properties that I passed up on because I know this is perfect for the Bombas. They would love. This is what they want. Right. Call them up, and 9 times out of 10, right? I kid you not, write it up.
Yes. I mean,
if you know what they want, right? You've talked about it. They're clear. You understand it, and you bring them what they want. What else are they going to say other than
Well, then also, I'm a subscriber to the theory of Malcolm Gladwell, right? He has this book called Blink, and he talks about how your subconscious rationalizes before you can actually or your subconscious keys on things and triggers like a response in you. It's like gut before you can rationalize the thought in your head and put like meaning behind why you feel that way.
Visceral.
So it really is, because when I was out in the inventory and you saw a good deal, you knew it was a good deal, right? And that's where you trigger, right? That's where you want to buy it, right? It's like, oh, I can make this work. And maybe I don't know all the reasons, but or even like when you're in a house and you're like, this is perfect for that customer. That is that feeling, right? But that's part of that experience and the repetition and just knowing.
If anybody has not felt that feeling, you need to feel it at least once.
Agreed.
Because it's nothing like it. Truly. It's not, when you know that this is perfect, whether it's for you or for your client, and that syncs up and then it works out, oh man, it's great.
And there's no better feeling, right? That closing table that day when you're done with that, and it's just like you felt that feeling, you brought it to them, they're like, I want this. And then also down the road when you see they're like doing really well with it and they're like buying like multiple things because of it. Yeah. Because that is the wealth building, right? That first purchase is the lever that you need to kind of kick things off.
That's what gets you going.
Right. It's, as with you, Samatores Gardens, Del More.
Yeah, it's what gets you in the door.
Yeah. So I think that is really important, and you should understand what that feeling is, right? But part of that is the exercise of being out there, being open to those opportunities, and making sure you're present, right? The idea that you make your own luck. Why I agree with that, right? I mean, there is luck, there is opportunities that present yourself.
But you created it.
Exactly. It's a function of your experience and your presence. Your presence is important.
I like how you said that, out there and being present, because that speaks. I mean, that's the key, showing up is one aspect of being present, but being present in that moment to hear and listen, on what's being asked of you, right? Because people, I don't know why, but chances are you've had it, you've received a client after they worked with an agent, and they say, I don't know why they showed me this. I told them, I told them I needed a backyard. They showed me all these condos, and I can't. So you're like, well, just listen. It's like, Rodney, you said the first house. I like a one and done.
Yeah.
The first house. This is the one. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but that's your knowledge of the inventory, that's your knowledge of the customer, right? And it all starts with questions, right? And listening. You have to hear what they're telling you.
Yeah. You have to hear. But yeah, and I'm really enjoying Top End Pest Control. We're out there providing a great service. To you name it. If you are a rental car company, we go and service rental cars, hotels. Base projects, of course, residential. So pest control is needed. It really picked up after Marwar.
Right. Top End home inspections coming?
It's coming soon.
There's lots of ancillary. Well, and that's one of the things that's interesting here is like the home inspections, situation. But that's a whole nother story.
It is a whole nother story.
Yeah. But tell me about what you think of the real estate market right now. There's a lot of news on the horizon, and especially predominantly purchasers have been of the houses in the 500, 600, especially when interest rates were, some of those sticker prices when interest rates were low, I couldn't believe. But predominantly those purchasers have been service members. So now you have an environment where interest rates are crazy. The likelihood of cash flow is essentially zero,
Sure.
Unless you're buying low, and where are you going to find that?
Yeah.
So what do you think of the market? What do you think? What do you tell someone who wants to get in here and buy?
The truth.
Yeah. What is that? What is the truth as Rodney Washington sees it?
The truth is it can be expensive. There are no real short-term plays in this environment. So if you're looking to do something quick and get in and make this absorbent cash flow, that opportunity isn't present on a big scale. It's not impossible, but it's not present on the largest scale unless you're walking around with cash in your pocket and you just need somewhere to park it.
Right.
And that's a different story. And the truth entails what's happening, not nationally, but locally. Real estate is local.
Yes.
So locally for us, we don't have inventory. There's not enough inventory for every agent to sell half a house. So with that said, if you have less than or 200 single family homes on the market that's not pending, that tells you we have an issue with inventory. And then also it's the price and it's the interest rates. What I will say, they like to say, realtors say, when is a good time to buy? Always, right? But that's,
Yeah.
But I will say, if you can afford your mortgage on the property, and it's not your dream home, but if you can afford it today, you should buy. Because we know rates are going to come down. They're not going to probably ever be back to 2% and 3%, but they are going to come down. Once they even look at 5%.
5% is the number.
Then what do you think is going to happen to the 200 homes the prices of the 200 homes that are available?
Agreed.
That all of a sudden become affordable because the money is cheaper. Well, now you have 20, 30 offers on one house.
Right.
And here's a person doing $50,000 over asking, $100,000 over asking if they really want it.
Yes.
So if you can't afford your payments right now, then you should buy, because once interest rates come down, you're going to see 10 to 15% appreciation in home prices. It has to happen here because we don't have the inventory and we won't get it anytime soon.
What do you think? You're a local property owner now, right? I mean, you're vested in Guam. You're not leaving, right? Not predicting the future, but I mean,
Right.
you're not a carpetbagger, right?
Yeah,
For sure. So, in the frame of that, I totally lost it, Rodney.
Yeah, no, it happens. But I do, while you picked it up, I do want to say, I understand if there's frustration out in the market, especially with our local population, because they're outpriced. And, these individuals and families have great jobs.
Yes.
They have great jobs. What more, can they do, right?
Well, so I guess that's where I was leading to. It's that there's a strange dichotomy here, because you have these subsidized rents, whether it's service members, whether it's affordable housing through GURA,
Sure.
whether it's USDA subsidized rate through the direct loan program, direct, where they can buy your rate down to like 1%.
Contractors.
That's in the dichotomy of that market, plus a low property tax base. What do you think if they shifted? What do you think would happen here if they shifted from OHA to BAH?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No. And I get it. And for the listeners that may not know what you mean by that, BAH is basic allowance for housing, which is typically received stateside.
Okay.
Okay. OHA is overseas housing allowance. That's what you receive if you're overseas. The difference between the two is with BAH, the member gets a fixed amount, and they go out and they live on the economy with that amount. So if they get $2,000, they spend that $2,000. They can live in the van,
yes,
if they wanted to, you know. They go out and they spend it. With OHA, you get what the rental amount is, and all of that goes to your landlord. That's the end of the story.
Use it or lose it.
Use it or
as
lose
they
it.
say.
You know, that's the story on that. So I do not think that the one thing I think that it will help, we used to have low cost affordable housing. You used to be able to rent for $1,000 or $800. We don't have that anymore. But for the landlords whose homes are reasonably priced for the local market, I think it would be great for them. I mean, because they are providing, you know, an asset that's needed, and they should be compensated for it, you know. So it'll be great for them. But however, for the landlords that are used to the OHA, that still will continue, because those same two sailors that now have the freedom to go and stay everywhere, if they're getting $1,000, $2,000 each, they can still go and rent this landlord's house for $2,200, $2,400, $3,000, and still pocket $1,000 each.
So you subscribe to the theory, like it's like gas prices. Once gas prices hit, $5 is never going down, right? Once the price per square foot for construction hits, you know, X, it's never going down.
So I don't think switching over to BH is going to make rents come down.
So you don't think a 20-year-old Rodney Washington getting $1,600 to live off base would find a $500 apartment and pocket the difference?
He might do that, or he might get with his buddy and split the cost on something different.
Roommates.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You do that. And so Rodney is still saving, and the landlord is still getting what they're asking.
Yeah, which is not possible under current, because OHA you can't do it.
Correct.
Yeah, you can double it up, but you can't pocket the difference.
Yeah, you can't pocket the difference
without losing your job.
Right.
And ending up in Leavenworth.
So yeah.
Right. I don't know where they send the Navy guys. But
Gitmo or
yeah. Oh no. Not for that, Rodney. Not for that.
Oh yeah, so that's how I see that. You know, there'll be changes. I do have these conversations with some of my landlords, and they get worried. But look, here's the bottom line: things change. You know, constantly change. We just figure out how to adjust.
Agreed. So this market for me feels a lot like 2008. Right. You weren't here at the time, right? But that's the Asian economic crisis. That's when the too big to fail happened. And as a result of that, the mentality of the consumer here was the same. The buyer, the service member, they're getting all that negative financial news, right? Inventory was short. The buildup had kind of fallen by the wayside because we're in buildup 3 now, I think, right?
But it's on and popping now.
Oh, for sure, right? I mean, just when you drive down Route 3, and it's just like, where did this place come from? I can't even find Rotidian because I think I'm on a freeway.
You're looking around, right?
Yeah.
So it's happening. If anybody's in disbelief, just take Route 3.
So in this market, talk to me about, because I know you can be. Talk to me about being creative, like seller financing, wholesaling. Have you? A lot of people have come to us regarding wholesaling. What do you think about that?
Again, real estate is local. Wholesaling is great if you are in an environment that will support it. We're not in an environment that supports it.
Why do you think that is?
One thing about our community is, and those that know will know, for some things on Guam, the way it is the way it is. If that's not how we did it, that's not how we do it. Let's say if you're going to acquire property for a typical flip, you got to come. You got to come see you. You got to go to the title company. That property needs to change hands, new ownership. Then you go and do what it is you're going to do with the property. Doesn't work. The wholesaling strategy doesn't work here because that's not where our mentality is on how we transfer property and how we cut a piece out of the middle.
And for those who don't know, wholesaling is you come to an agreement with one party. You bank a deposit, you get it into escrow, and then you have verbiage in the agreement that allows you to sign that agreement at somebody else, and you revenue off the assignment. So you middle into it, right?
That's correct.
But a lot of people like that strategy because they're in places where you can cold call 100 people and find someone to bite. You look at old listings, longer than 120 days or so,
Absolutely.
and then you just come at them with like whatever low ball number, and I call 100 people, one person might bite, and then I assign it to somebody else, and they'll do it. And so Guam prohibits what's called net listing, where you as a real estate professional, you do that and like make a profit off the difference. But also I think to that end, a lot of people don't know how to do it structurally in a way that won't get you burned and also the market is so small. It's so easy to get around somebody. So it's like as soon as some guy's like knocking on the door and just like, quick. Hey, forget this guy, let it expire, come to me, because when money's involved, people will do a lot of different things.
That I've seen.
Yeah.
That absolutely, I've seen that.
So, how about foreclosures? Have you ever bought a foreclosure at auction?
Not at auction, but I have bought bank foreclosures.
Yeah, but you bought it from the bank.
Yes.
Yeah. So now in the market, I think the strategy is to beat it.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to get there before.
You cannot let it touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because once the bank owns it, you're too late. It's market. You got to get there before the guy gets foreclosed on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a risky market too.
It's risky, and then too, just the volume of those type of properties, it isn't really large here.
Yeah,
for several reasons.
So it's always interesting. Some guy reads a book and it's like, foreclosures, right? And then you get that call, right? And like, I can almost hear you rolling your eyes over the phone, right?
You do, because now you got to go down the education, rabbit hole.
Yes.
And you have to explain why. That's not. I understand where you're going with that, but no.
And people don't understand with foreclosures here. There's things in Guam law that make it very difficult. Specifically the right of redemption. You acquire a property, you're stuck with it for like a year, and there's no way to. Well, we've explored this in terms of strategies to waive the right of redemption, meaning purchase. Well, I mean we've gone down the road of getting legal opinions. Is this a terminable thing? Can you have your rights terminated? And it's just like, with Guam law, if you make a contract and the other party agrees and it's all, good consideration, everyone's in agreement. If it's contrary to Guam law, that contract is not binding and not enforceable.
Okay.
So if you engage with somebody to assign or terminate your redemption rights, and they later decide that that's not going to be the case, and it's not a function of Guam law, then you can have the rug pulled out from under you, and then that extra consideration, right? And I think I don't know what the legal aspect, the legal remedy for that would be, but I think people forget about that.
They do.
Yeah. So
which is understandable, especially if it's not something they do every day.
Yeah, and so a lot of people, what they do is they'll rent, right? They'll buy the property, do the minimum amount of fix up, and then rent it out for a year, or just let it sit.
And yes, they do that, which I get because but yeah, just real quick at the landscape, and this is mostly for I'd say the younger generation, under 40, and it's just tougher if you have kids and things like that. But you have to be open to doing things together, with friends, with families, with partners, and by that I mean, if you need to split expenses with somebody, a friend from college, don't be afraid to go in, take on the place together, and at least save half of your income with a plan in mind on how you're gonna to exit that.
Right.
Because a lot of time we try to be totally independent, and this is more of a mainland thing. I see that less here. It's more acceptable to still be with family, and have a multi-generational household.
It's necessity, though.
It is. Mm-hmm. It is, and
and cultural too, though, I would say.
Yeah. So I would say, obviously, if you're not afraid to do that, But I would say do that, but do it with intent.
Mm-hmm.
Do it with intent and know why. And this may be how you get into the property market, because it has changed for the foreseeable future. It has changed.
But as you said, you remember the when and the why.
Yes.
And then, just like living life with intention, right? Acting every day. It's like, I want to do this. Well, what steps are you taking and putting in place to make that happen? And I think that's important to have that conversation with yourself and to kind of put that down in your plan.
You have to. Yeah. And then go and find somebody you can get it done with and get it done.
Yeah, it's funny because I in my capacity as a realtor on the sales side, you just strike up random conversations with people just sometimes, right? Especially, I love wearing like branded shirts because it's like, oh, they know you're in real estate, right? So it's just like, oh, they just start asking you questions, right? So I've mandated to all our team as well. So sorry, Title Guarantee for the uniform requirement, but that's branding, right? But so there's one guy I met randomly at a computer. Said, hey, I got a house, right? So said, can you come take a look? So and I looked. And he was renting every room out to like a different guy, and he had this League One house that was like, extended to like, like no setbacks.
No bank will touch.
There's zero conformity, right? But this guy was yielding like $8,000 a month on this house.
He had it though, and I love that.
Yeah,
he did what he needed to do.
And he's like, Brian, you'd never be able to do this on your own. It's like, that is for sure. No way I would undertake that. But I mean, just the yield that he was getting, and he was sacrificing for that benefit because he was living in a room and dealing with whatever you would deal with that number of roommates, right?
Sure.
So
and it happens. But he knew the why, he knew the purpose of it.
Yes, and it's yielding that over the time would definitely do that, achieve your why.
Yeah.
And I will say, respective to the market, and like I do have these conversations with people in the same way that you do. Just what do you think? What's going on, right? And so one of the questions I asked, like, what do you think of the interest rate environment? I was talking to one of the more prominent commercial developers here, that, who have their own ongoing concerns and develop their own commercial properties. And they were building something. I was like, wow, you're undertaking this. You're bringing on financing. It's a high interest rate. Are you concerned that the expenses aren't going to pan out for you and you're not going to be able to cover kind of your costing at this point? It's like, absolutely not. Because a lot of these buildings that we're revenuing off of now were built in a 13% interest rate environment.
This is very true. Yeah. A lot of people do forget. I mean, interest rates on average 6%. That's average.
Right.
And I did not mention earlier when I got that San Vittori's Garden property, Citibank gave me a loan at just under 9%.
Yeah.
At that time,
which can be scary. Right?
Yeah,
it's like, shoot, 9%, especially if you're normalized at 2, you're normalized at 3. When I was a mortgage broker in 2000, the first Gulf War was kind of 9/11, right? And interest rates would fluctuate based on who we're attacking and who we're at war with, right?
Yes,
as
absolutely.
You see with Ukraine,
but that's how the
Black
economy
Swan.
works.
But we were at 7, and then we dropped to like 6.25. I was like, whoa, this has never happened again, right? And then it dropped to like 5.5, right? We refinance people like multiple times sometimes. They call it churning now. Sorry, too big to I didn't do it. I was just. But anyways, and then they were doing it at no cost. So it's just the interest rate.
Oh, the no cost was great.
Yeah,
do that at no cost. Oh my God.
No, in that time, stated income. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, I just have to tell you what I make.
Ninja. And Ryan's referring to what they used to call ninja loans.
Oh yeah. No income, no. Yeah.
No income, no job, no asset. If you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan.
Yeah, those are the days, Rodney. Right. Yeah, good times. Right. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of strategies, but I think the most important thing to remember in real estate is the time horizon. The time horizon is long.
Yes.
And there are strategies to shorten that, but you always, if you're generally, and what I've seen over, my 20 plus year real estate career is in the long term, those bets always pay off.
They do.
And it's really hard to time the market, so you shouldn't look at that. You just buy and hold. It's buy and hold.
That's the strategy.
Yeah.
That's the strategy. Of the properties that I did sell, obviously today I wish I didn't.
That's having tourist cards. Yeah.
I wish I didn't, especially that one, you know. But, you do the best with what you know,
But how many times over the last like X amount of years would you have bought and sold that same condo, right? It's like, okay, I bought it at 100. I would have sold it at 279, right? I would have sold it at like 325, right? So it's like, how do you do that?
Well, that scenario you told us about a Lupane Cove, that was the same thing with Delmar Condo. Check this out really quick. So I bought that for $64,000 and had it for several years.
Yeah.
Then I sold it for $93,000 because like you said, I thought that was the top of the market.
Yeah.
Kennington Realty then sold it again for $150,000.
Legend.
Yeah. When I thought $93,000 was it, this was just a year later.
Yeah.
And now they're $250.
Yeah. I know.
So buy and hold is correct, sir.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like Warren Buffett, it's impossible to time the market, right? It's just like, if it makes sense for you, you do it and you move forward and you don't look back.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really, I've never subscribed to timing the market. I kind of think that's a lazy play, because you're waiting for what you think is the most opportune time. And it's not even what you think. You're listening to people, around you and group think.
Yes.
With people saying, "Oh, it's not the time to buy." Like I said earlier, if you can afford it and the deal makes sense, you do the deal.
Yes.
Because to speak to your point, don't forget about the time horizon.
Yeah. 2-month horizon, right? Just taking advantage of opportunities that people overlook.
Yes.
And that's strategy, right? That's business, right? The obstacle is the way.
The obstacle is the way. Yes.
Right on, man. So, Rodney, I feel like we could probably go on like this for another like 40 minutes.
I think we can.
Yeah. So, and I appreciate, I always appreciate engaging with you. I appreciate talking story with you and hearing your stories and your journey. And honestly, I look forward to having you back and just, so we don't have to do all the history. We can just jump right into it, kind of what's going on in the market, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Can I just talk about you for a second?
Sure.
Okay. So, one, I want to tell you, I really appreciate you. And you don't know this, but you are one of 4 people that I looked up to early in my career. And even more so now, today, that I have time behind me to really understand what it takes to recreate yourself and push forward on something. I love how you have taken on this new role and responsibility and skill stacked what you appreciate about technology and what you know from being a realtor to create something unique. Let me tell you, when you debut Real Facts, I thought Steve Jobs came back, and I looked at Hella. I said, I thought he was about to fly. I said, "Is Ryan about to levitate?" Giving his speech because you were so passionate and on it, man. So thank you, for what you bring.
You are Steve Jobs because you were wearing black. Just no turtleneck going, right? Yeah, just like so. He wore that every day because it was a waste of time.
It was a waste of time.
Yeah, to change, right? So I subscribe to the Steve Jobs, and it's just too hot for the turtleneck, so I opted for the black polo. Yeah,
it works.
Been wearing polos for like 15 years. Yeah. But no, I appreciate you saying that, and honestly, the drive for that was I wanted to put the tools in place that I wished I had when I was in your shoes.
That shows.
Yeah. So and also for me, I am very passionate about what you do, and I am very passionate about your success. And I looked at the idea of being a broker and the prospect of managing, a bunch of real estate agents wasn't really for me.
Understand.
But how can I put myself in a position to facilitate everybody? And so for me, we're in a competitive environment, right? But God, we got to help each other because experientially, I help you. I always come from a place of giving. So I just believe you put that out there, you give, then it comes back. And I think all sales, all professionals should come from that. Professional service providers like realtors, lawyers, all that stuff. It has to come from a place of giving. And then that comes back.
It does.
So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. So you've name dropped and endorsed but thanks for saving me for last. I appreciate it. And I have always been a staunch advocate for you and everything that you've done. I've also appreciated your integrity and your approach. And I've never wished for more success for anybody, I think, other than you. So I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
That.
I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to having you again. And thanks for joining us on Market Movers, and we're with a real one. Thanks, Rodney.
Thank you too.